Well, good evening and welcome to the 50th anniversary concert of the United States Army Chorus. What a wonderful crowd. During the last few days, we have been having the most wonderful time together. In the history of the United States Army Chorus, there have been 268 members in 50 years, making it an incredibly elite organization. In this room tonight are over 120 of those people. We've had people return for this from all over the country. We've had the greatest turnout for an anniversary that we've ever had. We have people who have traveled great distances and told some wonderful stories to us about their years in the chorus, and I'm convinced it's something someone who retired from the Army Band many years ago said. As he started to tell many stories of his career, he kept stopping, saying, well, I can't tell that story, and then he'd stop again, and then he finally looked out at us and he said, you know, you're just not allowed to have as much fun in the Army as we used to. This evening, we have a couple of special guests who are hosting this concert. We fall under the Military District of Washington, and the commanding general of that unit is our boss, our higher headquarters. And over the years that I've been associated with this unit and other musical organizations in the Army, I've had a lot of bosses that I worked for who said a lot of wonderful things about music and how they wanted to support us, but then whose actions failed to live up to those words. We have a boss right now whose actions absolutely exceed anything he's ever said. He truly appreciates what we do. He's traveled around the country just to be in the audience for things that we have done. And it means so much to us to have someone who will do that. So I want to introduce to you the host for this evening's concert, the Commanding General of the Military District of Washington, Major General Guy Swan. In your program, you will find a letter from President Bush that I'd like to read to you. I send greetings to those celebrating the 50th anniversary of the United States Army Chorus. Congratulations as you mark this important milestone. For half a century, the men of the Army Chorus have served as a symbol of our nation's rich musical tradition. Their performances have lifted us in times of sorrow and helped us celebrate in times of joy. The Army Chorus has entertained presidents, world leaders, and at events for the State Department and the Department of Defense. Whether performing at the White House, the United States Capitol, or on a local stage, the music of the Army Chorus has inspired countless individuals around the world. I commend members of the Army Chorus for your remarkable talent and your commitment to excellence. Your service is a tribute to the spirit of our great nation. Laura and I send our best wishes for a wonderful anniversary celebration. Signed, George Bush. And I have a couple of other letters to read. Congratulations to all the members of the United States Army Chorus on celebrating your 50th anniversary. I have enjoyed many Army Chorus performances over the years and have always been delighted by your beautiful music and impressive artistry, qualities which have allowed you to fittingly represent our talented men and women in uniform and our nation. Hillary joins me in wishing you continued success and many more years of exceptional musical performances. Signed, Bill Clinton. Barbara and I congratulate the United States Army Chorus on the occasion of its 50th anniversary. The Army Chorus is a national treasure, recognized as one of the finest choruses in the world. It has been a part of history these past 50 years, performing for presidential inaugurals, White House dinners, and gatherings at Camp David, as well as for citizens all around this country. Your performances throughout the years have lifted countless audiences, and Barbara and I and our entire family have had the pleasure of being among many of those audiences. We salute the dedicated members of the Army Chorus, past and present, on this special occasion of your rich history, and look forward to many more joyful performances in the decades ahead. Sincerely, George Bush. Dear friends, I am delighted to send my congratulations to the United States Army Chorus as you celebrate your 50th anniversary. I have such fond memories of the Army Chorus performances during the time my husband and I spent at the White House, and I will be forever grateful for the wonderful music you offered for my husband's memorial service at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. As you celebrate your 50th anniversary, I am pleased to congratulate you on your success and send my best wishes for many more years of making beautiful music. Sincerely, Nancy Reagan. And there's more. To the United States Army Chorus, Rosalind and I are pleased to congratulate you on your 50th anniversary. During our time in the White House, we and our guests had many opportunities to enjoy the Army Chorus. This concert is a fitting tribute to 5 decades of inspirational performances with which you have blessed our nation. You have our warm best wishes for continued success. Sincerely, Jimmy Carter. And congratulations to all the men of the United States Army Chorus on the occasion of your 50th anniversary celebration. The Army Chorus holds a very special place in my heart. From my time in the White House to the 20 years of performances in Vail, Colorado, I have enjoyed my association with this superb ensemble. You are outstanding musicians who represent the finest this country has to offer. Whether performing at the White House dinners for visiting heads of state, joining Bob Hope or John Denver, or singing at several memorable events at the Gerald Ford Museum in Grand Rapids, the Army Chorus touches each audience member with the group's musicianship and professionalism. Betty and I are so pleased to be able to pass on our best wishes to this remarkable organization. Happy 50th, and we hope to see you soon. Signed, Gerald R. Ford. Those are special things to get, and it just underscores what this chorus has done for 50 years. When you can get letters from every living former president to tell you how much they appreciated listening to you. So now you have a chance to listen to 50 years of music crammed into a wonderful 2-hour concert. We have several conductors who are with you here this evening. The chorus's first conductor, it was founded by a gentleman who at the time was named Captain Sam Laboda. He founded the chorus in 1946 by taking members out of the band who could also sing. And then in 1956 is when they officially made it a separate ensemble and started to recruit just for this group. During that time, there was a short period where a gentleman by the name of Barry Drews also did some conducting with the group. And in 1964, when then Colonel Laboda took over as the leader and commander of the Army Band, he turned the reins over to our first conductor. This gentleman served as the conductor of the Army Chorus then for 15 years, then went on for a 20-year career on the faculty of Westminster Choir College, and then left there to take over as the director of choral activities at the University of Georgia. They don't make them any better than this guy. Please welcome to conduct our first set, retired Major Alan Crowell.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sergeant Major Bill Fox. On behalf of Major Alan Crowell and all the men of the United States Army Chorus, both past and present, I'm very proud to be able to welcome you to our concert tonight. For about the first 30 years of the Army Chorus, that was our opener. It was written by our founder, Colonel Laboda, and we sang that song at the beginning of practically every program we sang. We also sang another song which became one of our signature selections. It's the music of Sigmund Romberg, the words of Frank Madeline and another man who is to become very, very famous, Oscar Hammerstein II. It's a song which, it describes the Army Chorus, stout-hearted men. That is the sound of the Army Chorus. At this point, I have a letter from Herbert Hoover. No, just kidding. Just a little joke, just a little joke. You know, I was asked yesterday, what are some of the things that you remember? And you do remember some of the people that you sang for over the years. The very first president that any of us sang for was General Eisenhower. I remember 12 of us on an October morning, 1960, were escorted very quietly into the Oval Office, and there, when he came walking into the door about 6:30 or so in the morning, we sang happy birthday to him. It was his 70th birthday. Great memory. This next song I have also a great memory I'd like to share with you. General of the Army Omar Bradley, himself also a five-star general, had been a widower for a number of years, and after those many years, a documentary was being done of his life in Hollywood, and the main producer of that documentary, a lady, met General Bradley, and they became enamored with each other and were married. And I always remember this song as being sung one night for a special program for General Bradley when he and his new wife were newlyweds. And they sat there together holding hands as we sang this great song by George and Ira Gershwin, one of the last songs that they wrote together in 1937. A beautiful song which features our accompanist. And it's arranged by Joseph Wilcox Jenkins, the gentleman who arranged a lot of the pieces on the program this evening. But you try to remember or try to envision General Omar Bradley, 5 stars, crusty old general, sitting there holding hands with his bride as we sang, "Love walked right in and stole the shadows away." great Austrian composer Franz Schubert wrote for voices. He loved voices. He wrote for all combinations of voices, from solos to duets to trios to quartets to choruses. He especially liked the male chorus, and he wrote over 150 songs just for male chorus. Tonight we sing one which is very typical of his great style. Here now is a piece which was reissued in 1959 by Robert Shaw and Alice Parker. It's a beautiful piece called Die Nacht, which means the night, and it describes the stillness and the restfulness, the peace of evening. For the benefit of those of you who are instrumentalists in the audience tonight, that was a cappella. This next arrangement, as is the case with the next actually three arrangements were arranged by Joseph Wilcox Jenkins, which I mentioned earlier. Joe was our arranger during the first 3 years of our life, and he arranged during those first 3 years over 400 selections for us. So you do the math on that, that's one every 2 or 3 days. He wasn't wasting a lot of time by the pool, obviously. He would bring in sometimes 2 and 3 arrangements a morning, and we would delight in reading them. This is one of the ones that he did in July of 1958. It appears on the very first album that we produced. And on that album was one of the original members of the Army Chorus singing this very beautiful traditional Irish melody, Sergeant Ernie Murphy, who served from 1956 to 59. Ernie's still got it. You'll hear him right now. Ernie Murphy, ladies and gentlemen.
In Dublin's fair city, where girls are so pretty, I first set my eyes on sweet Molly Malone. As she wheeled her wheelbarrow through streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, She was a fishmonger, and sure 'twas no wonder, for so were her father and mother before. And they each wheeled their barrow through streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, She died of a fever, and no one could save her, and that was the end of sweet Molly Malone. Her ghost wheels her barrow through streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive,
I told you he still had it. Yes, sir. Wow. This next gentleman came into the Army Chorus in 1959 and stayed with us for 22 years until 1981, becoming a sergeant major in one of the NCOICs of our group, Sergeant Major Byron Corcoran. He sings another arrangement by Joseph Wilcox Jenkins. This was done in 1959. Again, the music of Sigmund Romberg, the words of Oscar Hammerstein II. Softly as in a morning sunrise, Sergeant Major Byron Corcoran.
Love came to me, gay and tender. Love came to me, sweet surrender. Love came to me in bright romantic splendor. Fickle was she, faithful never. Fickle was she, and clever. So will it be forever, forever. Softly, as in a morning sunrise, the light of love comes stealing into a newborn day. Flaming with all the glow of sunrise, a burning kiss is stealing the love that all betray. For the passions that thrill love and lift you high to heaven are the passions that kill love and let you fall to hell. Shall ends its story softly as in an evening sunset. The light that gave you glory will take it all away. For the passions that thrill and lift you high to heaven are the passions that kill and let you fall to hell. Shall ends its story softly as in a morning sunrise, the light that gave you glory will take it all away.
I think that was a high R on the end there. Wow. This next piece, we're going to ask two gentlemen who both sang this as a solo during their times in service to sort of share this next solo on the Road to Mandalay, again, arrangement by Joseph Wilcox Jenkins of Ole Speak's great setting of Rudyard Kipling's wonderful poem On the Road to Mandalay. The first is Thomas Paul. Tom was one of the original members of the chorus, went on to a very illustrious career singing oratorio and opera in New York after leaving us. Then, of course, some years later came along a young man by the name of John Cheek. And John sang with us for a number of years. This was one of his solos as well. And John has had a very wonderful career in New York, singing at the Met, and has just gone on to do great things. So Tom Paul is going to sing the first verse. John Cheek is going to sing the second verse. And no telling what will happen toward the end. On the Road to Mandalay.
to mine pagoda, looking eastward to the sea. There's a Burma girl as England, and I know she thinks of me. For the wind is in the palm trees, and the devil bells they say, come you back, you British soldier, come you back to Mandalay, come you back to Mandalay. Come you back to Mandalay, where the old flotilla lay. Can't you hear the paddles chunking from Rangoon to Mandalay? On the road to Mandalay, where the flying fishes play, and the dawn comes up like thunder out of China across the bay. Ship me somewheres east of Suez, where the best is like the worst, where there ain't no 10 commandments, and a man can raise a thirst. For the temple bells are calling, and it's there that I would be, by the old Moulmein pagoda, looking lazy at the sea, looking lazy at the sea. Come you back to Mandalay, where the old flotilla lay. Can't you hear those paddles chunking from Rangoon to Mandalay? On the road to Mandalay, where the flying fishes play, and the dawn comes up like thunder out of China across the bay. On you back to Mandalay, where the old flotilla lay. Can't you hear those paddles chunking from Rangoon to Mandalay? On the road to Mandalay, where the flying fishes play, and the dawn comes up like thunder out of China across the bay.
Yeah. We, Sergeant Bob Hamilton, one of our earliest accompanists. We just thought after a couple of tenors you needed a little vocal balance there. Interestingly, I meant to tell you that when John Cheek was here, he was really a favorite, truly, this is truth, a favorite of Richard Nixon. And every time we sang at the White House during the Nixon years, we always had to do Road to Mandalay with John Cheek singing it. In fact, there was a wonderful recording made in the White House of John singing On the Road to Mandalay. Unfortunately, there's about an 18-second gap in the middle of it. But, well, in the 1970s, in the 1980s, we had another theme song which was arranged by one of our fine tenors, Roger Nelson. And this was a beautiful song which, written by Carole King, both the words and the music. It seemed a little incongruent for a bunch of soldiers to be singing this song, but when you stop to think about it, the camaraderie that is within the United States Army, the song makes a lot of sense. You've got a friend.
have to speak at least long enough for them to sit for a second, okay? Over the course of the history, there have been 11 officers who have conducted the Army Chorus, and tonight on the stage you will see 5 of them. The next conductor that we have with us this evening conducted the chorus from 1982 to 1987, and then went on to become the second of the conductors in our history to then come back and become the leader and commander of the United States Army Band. Please welcome to conduct the next portion of our concert, Colonel Retired Brian Shelburne.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Master Sergeant Retired John Benich, Army Chorus 1976 to 1996. I was the announcer that had the dubious honor of following in Bill Fox's footsteps. Big shoes to fill, Bill, as well as Bill Trummel and some other guys before. People were often curious about what is it that you do in the Army Chorus? What sorts of situations do you find yourself performing in? And often we would find ourselves performing at the White House, the State Department, quarters of the Chief of Staff of the Army, Joint Chiefs of Staff. And we didn't just sing Army songs in those sorts of settings. We often would sing, in addition to singing something in the language, if there were diplomatic visitors, singing something in the native language of that visitor, we'd also try to do something that was uniquely American. So often we would be singing the songs of Stephen Foster, something like the arrangement Jano Annie, which you just heard, or another one by Joseph Wilcox Jenkins of Ring Ring to Banjo.
Song.
The musical Les Mis opened in Paris in 1980. It premiered in its English version in London in 1985 and then ran on Broadway from 1987 to 2003. Was nominated for 12 Tony Awards, won 8 of them. And one of our current members was a member of a touring group that performed, he actually performed Jean Valjean on the road and then for a year on Broadway in New York. And once you hear him, you understand why we always had, I think it was a bit of pity for anyone who came to audition for the Army Chorus and would tell us that they had chosen to sing this particular poignant song from Les Mis. So we want to introduce to you Staff Sergeant Steve Kramer and the chorus performing Colonel Shelburne's arrangement of Bring Him Home from Les Mis.
God on high, hear my prayer. In my need, you have always been there. He is young, he's afraid. Let him rest, heaven blessed. Bring him home, bring him home, bring him home. He's like the son I might have known if God had granted me a son. The summers die one by one, how soon they fly on, and I am old and will be gone. Bring him peace, bring him joy. He is young, he is only a boy. You can take, you can give. Let him be, let him live. If I die, let me die. Let him live.
Throughout our history, the United States Army Chorus has had not only a number of outstanding singers, but outstanding pianists who have accompanied us through the years, and we have 5 of those with us this evening. I would like to introduce to you. You just heard him playing on Gentle Annie. He served from 1958 to 1961, Lowell Everson. Get him back out here. Lowell. Lowell. There he is. Then the gentleman you heard on playing on the road to Mandalay served from 59 to 62, Mr. Robert Hamilton. A gentleman who has just sat down at the piano. He served from 73 to 94 and retired as a master sergeant, Mr. Elwin Garrett. And the 2 we have today, who, by the way, both hold degrees of Doctorate of Musical Arts, so they are, is it Dr. Sergeant or Sergeant Doctor? Anyway, it's Sergeant First Class Rafi Kasparian. And Master Sergeant Joseph Holt. When Colonel Shelburne left the chorus in 1987, he was replaced by this next gentleman who went on to become the 3rd conductor of the Army Chorus to eventually return and take over as leader and commander of the United States Army Band. Here to conduct the next set, please welcome Colonel Retired Gary Lamb.
At some point in the late 1980s, Joe Jenkins, whose name you've heard many times this evening, he came back to the Army Chorus. He heard what we were doing. He was actually commissioned to write some new arrangements for us. And he was quite taken with the abilities that were at the piano and in the chorus at that time. And he set about the business of writing some new arrangements that would showcase both. So the first piece that we sing is one of these later arrangements of Joseph Wilcox Jenkins. We featured the tenor voice of Sergeant Major Robert Patillo, singing the Neapolitan song, Torna a Sorrento, Come Back to Sorrento.
Guarda il mare com'è bello, spira tanto sentimento, come il tuo suave accento, che me desto fa sognare. Senti come lieve sale dai giardini odor d'arranci. E tu dici io parto addio, l'ontanità il mio cuore, questa terra dell'amore, hai la forza di lasciare. cantate, perché vogliono a te sola dolci cose mormorai.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Following this next piece, we're going to take a 15-minute break. We need a break, and we're thinking you may appreciate one as well. We're going to close this first half of the concert with really what is one of Joe Wilcox Jenkins' wildest folk song arrangements. In fact, after we ran through it the first time, Colonel Lamb said, wow, what was I thinking? Because I'd say maybe a third of the men, probably a quarter of the men on the risers have seen this arrangement before, and it's not the kind of thing that you would hear anywhere else. And I think that you know what I'm talking about in just a minute. So this is an arrangement of the Russian folk song Kalinka, and it features the bass voice of Staff Sergeant Casey Armstrong and the tenor voice of Sergeant First Class Michael Bicoy.
Before you get up, I've been asked to tell you something. There are a couple of hundred people still sitting out in the lobby listening who would love to take your seat if you're not coming back. So if I were you and you are coming back and you need to leave, put a program or something on it to hold it so we don't have any altercations of any kind. We'll start back in 15 minutes.